When my son told me I wouldn't be welcome at his house for Christmas, I smiled, walked to my car, and made one call. By New Year's, their mortgage payments were canceled. That was only the beginning of my plan. Justice had to be restored, and arrogance needed its price. You won't believe what happened next. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and share in the comments where you're watching from. I could make my signature turkey this year, I said, sinking into Michael's leather couch. The one with sage stuffing your mother loved. She always said it was better than her grandmother's. My words lingered in the air, blending with the scent of Isabella's costly vanilla candles. Michael shifted beside me, his wedding ring catching the glow of the towering Christmas tree. His posture stiffened, shoulders drawing inward. Dad, unfortunately, you won't be welcome here this Christmas. The words landed like a heavy strike. I blinked, convinced I'd misheard. What do you mean? Why wouldn't I be welcome? Michael avoided my gaze, staring instead at the marble coffee table I'd helped him choose last spring when Isabella wanted their furniture upgraded. Isabella's parents are visiting, and they'd prefer if you weren't here. My hands turned cold. They'd prefer, I repeated. It's easier this way, Dad. You know how her family is about traditions. They do things differently. His voice shrank with each word, like he was retreating into himself. I looked around at the silk curtains I had paid for, the hardwood floors financed by my second mortgage, the crown molding bought with maxed-out credit. Every inch of this house carried my effort, my sacrifice, my love for my son, their own way, I said slowly. And what way is that, Michael? He flinched. Dad, please don't make this harder. Through the kitchen archway, Isabella's new KitchenAid mixer caught my eye. A professional grade model she needed for a holiday. Baking phase that lasted 3 weeks. $2,000 of my money, used maybe twice. Where will I spend Christmas then? I asked, quieter than I intended. Michael's face faltered. Maybe you could visit Aunt Rosa, or we could do something the weekend after. As if Christmas was just another appointment to reschedule. I stood, my knees aching after years of carrying this weight alone. I see. Dad, wait. But I was already heading to the door, past the family photos where my face grew smaller in each frame, past the closet overflowing with Isabella's coats. My hand closed around the cold doorknob. Son, I said without turning. Tell Isabella's parents, Feliz Navidad. The December air slapped my face as I walked toward my truck. Behind me, Michael called my name once. Then the soft click of the door sealed it. Final. I sat in the driver's seat, engine off, watching Christmas lights glow in homes where I'd never belong. My phone buzzed, probably Michael, offering hollow apologies. I ignored it, turned the key, and drove into the dark. The heater hummed as I navigated familiar streets, South Hills unfolding around me. Every corner held memories of the man I used to be, the man who thought family meant everything, who would give his last dollar just to see his son smile. That man was a fool. At a red light, I watched a young father load gifts into his SUV, children pressing faces against fogged glass with excitement. Once upon a time, that had been Michael and me. Before Isabella. Before I became nothing more than a bank account with inconvenient feelings. Numbers spun through my mind like a broken slot machine. $2,800 every month, 5 years straight. By last spring, the total was $140,000. More than Maria and I had ever saved for retirement. Gone. The light turned green. I pressed the accelerator harder than necessary, the truck growling in agreement. 5th Street, where I refinanced my home to fund their down payment. I remembered the loan officer's cautious words. Mr. Flores, are you sure? You're putting a lot at risk for someone else's investment. Not my son's future, not family. Someone else's investment. Lincoln Street, the bank where I took a second mortgage after Michael lost his job. Just temporary, Dad, he'd said. Isabella stood behind him, a $700 purse on her arm, nodding while silently calculating what my desperation was worth. The answer was nothing. I pulled into my driveway, cracked concrete unfixed because every dollar went to their perfect suburban fantasy. The porch light flickered, a repair I'd long postponed. Inside, the house felt empty without Maria's laughter, without the warmth of family gatherings that were gone forever. My phone rang, Isabella's name flashing, likely to explain why I wasn't good enough for her parents' delicate standards. Perfect. I'd waited years for this. I answered on the fourth ring. Dennis, Isabella's voice dripped with forced sweetness, the same tone she used when asking me to cover bills or taxes. I heard about the little misunderstanding with Michael. Misunderstanding? I leaned on the counter, coat still on. I don't think so. You've made things clear. Look, I know it seems harsh, but my parents are very traditional. They want a certain kind of atmosphere for the holidays. A certain atmosphere, I repeated. And what exactly is that? I heard shopping bags rustle in the background, probably spending money that should have gone to their mortgage. My money. They're not used to your kind of cooking. All that spicy food, the loud music. And honestly, Dennis, they're educated. They expect conversations about art, literature, current events. You know. The words stung sharper than any insult. 8 years of holding my tongue, swallowing remarks, pretending not to see how she looked at me like hired help. My kind of cooking. My voice stayed even. You mean the meals you ate every Sunday for 3 years when money was tight? The tamales you said reminded you of your grandmother? That was different. We were grateful then. But now, with my parents, with your parents, you can't have the Mexican man embarrassing you at the table. Her tone hardened. Don't exaggerate, Dennis. This isn't about race, it's about class. My father graduated summa cum laude from Washington State. My mother speaks 4 languages. They summer in the Hamptons. What would you add to the conversation? Stories about laying tile? Heat filled my chest, but my voice stayed firm. I built a business from nothing. After your husband's grandfather passed, I've employed more than 50 people. I've paid more in taxes than your father earned in his best year. Money isn't everything, Dennis. Breeding matters. Education matters. And frankly, Maria understood her role better than you do yours. The line went quiet. She had crossed it. The boundary I didn't even know was there until she stomped past. It, in her designer heels. What did you just say about my wife? I'm only saying she knew how to blend in. She didn't cause conflict. She understood that not every space was meant for her. My grip tightened on the phone until my knuckles whitened. Maria had more grace in her little finger than your entire family line combined. Oh, please, she was a house cleaner who got lucky. At least she had the sense to stay quiet. Isabella. My voice dropped into something I barely recognized. Listen carefully. This conversation is finished. We are done pretending to be family. You can't just... We're done, I repeated, and ended the call. I placed the phone on the counter, my hands steady. The kitchen felt smaller but lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. I walked to my desk, pulled out the manila folder I'd been avoiding. Inside were bank statements, mortgage papers, 5 years of automatic transfers that had drained me while they lived comfortably. It was time to stop the bleeding. Part 4. The first decision, cancelling the mortgage. The document spread across the table like evidence. 5 years of statements, each showing the same automatic transfer, $2,800 on the 15th, leaving my account and landing in theirs. A paper trail of my own mistakes. I picked up a calculator and began adding. Year 1, $33,600. Year 2, another $33,600. By year 3, I had stopped buying myself new clothes. By year 4, I shopped only at discount groceries. By year 5, lunch was peanut butter sandwiches just to make ends meet. Total, $143,400. That didn't include the down payment, the utilities I covered when Isabella's spending got out of control, or the new roof, landscaping, and furniture she deemed necessary. I leaned back in my chair until the numbers blurred. Maria's life, insurance, my retirement savings, the college fund for grandchildren I may never see, all gone, poured into a home where I wasn't welcome for Christmas. I reached for my phone, scrolled through contacts, and found my bank's number. The automated system offered me options in English and Spanish. How thoughtful. Customer service. This is Jennifer. How can I help you? I need to cancel an automatic transfer, I said, my voice steadier than it had been in years. Of course, sir. I'll need your account number and verification. I provided the details. She typed quickly, professional and non-judgmental. I see the transfer, Mr. Flores, $2,800 monthly to Wells Fargo, account ending in 7423. How long have you been making this payment? 5 years. The words tasted bitter. And you want? It canceled immediately. I glanced around my kitchen. Outdated appliances, walls needing paint, windows that leaked cold air, repairs I couldn't afford because I was funding someone else's lifestyle. Effective immediately, I confirmed. Done. The transfer is canceled. Anything else I can help with? No. The word felt better than I expected. That's all. I hung up. Silence filled the house. Outside, December darkness settled over Spokane, Christmas lights glowing in windows where families gathered. Without conditions or judgment, for the first time in 5 years, next month's budget would balance. For the first time since Maria's passing, I could fix my porch light, buy proper groceries, maybe even take a trip. I gathered the bank statements and mortgage papers, then carried them to the fireplace. A single match turned 5 years of sacrifice into ash. The fire warmed my face more than anything had in years. My phone buzzed with a message, probably Michael with an apology, or Isabella asking for money for something essential like new throw pillows. I didn't check. Instead, I poured myself a glass of good whiskey, the bottle I had saved for a special occasion. Tonight was occasion enough. I raised the glass to the empty room, to Maria's photo on the mantel, to the man I was leaving behind, and the man I was becoming. Merry Christmas to me, I said, and meant it. Part 5. Isabella's provocation. The next morning was crisp and clear, December sunlight pouring through my kitchen windows as I drank my second cup of coffee. For the first time in years, I wasn't calculating how much would vanish from my account in 3 days. Freedom tasted better than the Colombian roast I'd finally allowed myself to buy. At exactly 10:47 a.m., my phone rang. Isabella's name flashed on my phone like a warning. Dennis. Her voice carried that familiar tone of thinly veiled impatience. I need you to pick up my parents from Spokane Airport. Their flight from Portland lands at 2 hours. I set my mug down carefully, watching the steam rise. Isabella, did you forget our conversation yesterday? Look, whatever that was about, we need to focus on practical matters now. My parents need a ride, and you're the only one available during the day. The audacity was remarkable. Less than a day after telling me I wasn't welcome at her Christmas table, she expected me to serve as her family's chauffeur. And you're asking me because that's what family does, Dennis. They help each other. Her voice grew sharper. Besides, let's be honest, you're not my rival. You're too weak for that. So just get in your truck and pick them up. There it was, the final insult, delivered as an order. What airline? I asked evenly. Alaska. Air Flight 447. They'll be at baggage claim, Carousel 3. And Dennis, make sure you handle their luggage properly. Don't embarrass us. I could hear her nails tapping on a hard surface, likely her granite countertop, the one I had paid for after she decided laminate wasn't suitable for entertaining. Of course, I said. I'll take care of everything. Good. And wear something presentable. Maybe that blue shirt you wore to Michael's graduation. They noticed those details. The line went dead. No thank you. I leaned back, staring at my phone's blank screen. 20 Flight 447, Carousel 3. I checked the clock above my sink. 10:52 a.m. Plenty of time. I poured another cup of coffee, added extra sugar, and opened yesterday's newspaper to the unfinished crossword. 7 across, delayed gratification. 12 letters. The answer would come eventually. Part 6. The Airport Trap. At 2:15 p.m., I was settled into my armchair with a fresh cup of Earl Grey and the Sunday Spokesman Review. The crossword lay completed on the coffee table. Delayed gratification was postponement. My phone buzzed against the wood surface. Isabella's name. I let it ring. The December sun slanted through my living room windows, warming the space where I had spent so many evenings measuring the cost of my generosity. Today, the quiet felt different, earned, deliberate. At 2:47, the phone buzzed again. This time, a text preview appeared. "Dad, where are you?" "My parents are..." I turned the phone face down and returned to the sports section. The Seahawks had lost again. Some things never changed. By 3:30, the phone had buzzed 6 times. I had finished the paper, brewed a second pot of tea, and started sorting the clutter in my kitchen's junk drawer. Amazing what could be accomplished when you weren't running errands for people who treated you like hired help. The 7th call came at 3:45. This time it wasn't Isabella. It was a number I recognized, likely her parents borrowing someone's phone at the airport. I let that ring too. Outside, a neighbor was hanging Christmas lights, his children racing around the yard with December energy. A normal family, doing normal things. No one stranded anywhere, waiting for someone who would never show. 15 p.m. My phone rang nonstop. Isabella, then an unknown number, then Isabella again. The buzzing became relentless, like a trapped wasp against glass. I walked into the kitchen, unplugged the landline, and switched my cell phone completely off. Silence, at last. I made a grilled cheese sandwich and heated a can of tomato soup. Comfort food I hadn't allowed myself in months, since nearly every grocery dollar had gone, toward covering expenses while propping up their lifestyle. The sandwich was perfectly golden, the soup steaming in my favorite mug. Outside, the winter sun was already setting, casting long shadows across the yard. Somewhere across town, 3 people were likely standing in an airport garage arguing about taxi fares and wondering how their personal assistant could possibly abandon them. The thought made the soup taste even better. By 5 p.m., I'd finished dinner, loaded the dishwasher, and was deciding which movie to watch. It had been years since I enjoyed a quiet evening without last-minute demands for money or errands. I was reaching for the remote when pounding erupted at the front door, not knocking, but the kind of forceful hammering that rattled the frame. I set down my tea and walked toward the sound, already knowing who I'd find outside. Through the peephole, 3 figures crowded my small porch. I opened the door to Cody Jenkins's red face, inches from mine. "What's wrong with you?" he shouted, barging into my living room without invitation. "We waited at that airport for over 3 hours. Catherine followed, her usually polished appearance disheveled, lips pressed in anger. "This behavior is unacceptable, Dennis. Absolutely disgraceful." Isabella trailed behind, her expensive coat wrinkled, makeup smudged. "You humiliated us. Do you realize what you've done? My parents had to take a $40 taxi because you get out of my house." My voice cut through their shouting, sharper than they expected. They stopped, surprised by the firmness of my tone. "Excuse me?" Cody's face darkened. "You don't get to make demands after what you pulled." "This is my house," I said evenly, unmoving. "And I want you out. Now." Catherine stepped forward, her voice dripping with condescension. "Dennis, You clearly don't understand the magnitude of this mistake. My husband has connections, business, social, political. You can't treat people like us this way and expect—" "This was a lesson," I interrupted, meeting her stare. "A lesson about arrogance and the way you treat people you consider beneath you." Isabella's jaw dropped. "A lesson? Who do you think you are? You're nobody. I'm someone who stopped being your bank account and chauffeur." I stepped aside, holding the door open wider. "The lesson's over. You can leave." Cody jabbed a finger at my chest but stopped short of touching me. "You don't know who you're dealing with, old man. I've been in this city longer than you've been breathing its air. I know important people. People who can make your life miserable." "Is that a threat, Mr. Jenkins?" "It's a promise." His voice dropped low. "You think abandoning elderly people at an airport is something you can do without consequences? You'll find out how wrong you are." Catherine nodded, her smile sharp. "Indeed, Dennis. Actions have consequences, and yours will be very public." "Daddy, let's just go," Isabella muttered, pulling his arm. "He's not worth it." They filed out like a retreating army, but Cody paused at the threshold. "You'll regret this," he said. "Count on it." I closed the door and locked it with a satisfying click. Through the window, I watched them pile into their rental car, still arguing as they drove into the December night. The house felt lighter without them, as if their presence had left a stain that was finally gone. But their words echoed. Public. Consequences, connections, important people. I picked up my tea, still warm. For the first time in this ordeal, I felt a flicker of concern. But stronger than that was anticipation. 3 days later, while drinking coffee and reading the Spokesman review, I saw my own face on page 3. The headline read, "Spokane businessman abandons elderly couple at airport during holiday storm." My hands froze around the mug. The photo was years old, pulled from my company's website. Beneath it, a story that made my stomach sink and my temper rise. Cody and Catherine Jenkins, visiting their daughter for Christmas, were portrayed as stranded at Spokane Airport for over 4 hours because I failed to pick them up. The article claimed they endured freezing conditions as a winter storm warning was issued. In reality, it had been 56 degrees and sunny. "We couldn't believe someone would just leave us like that," Cody said, presenting himself as a helpless retiree. "We called repeatedly, but Mr. Flores never answered. We had to take an expensive taxi in dangerous conditions. At our age, this isn't just inconsiderate, it's unsafe." The piece continued with comments about my erratic behavior and implied concerns about my mental health. Cody had positioned himself and Catherine as victims of a cruel old man who had suddenly snapped, without any mention of the Christmas dinner rejection, Isabella's demands, or the years of financial strain. In the article, I was painted as the villain who abandoned elderly tourists during a storm that never existed. I set down my coffee and read it again, then a third time. The byline belonged to Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor. I didn't know her, but I recognized the tactic. Cody had used his banking connections to place the story exactly where it would do the most damage. It was calculated. Effective. For the first time in this entire conflict, I felt a grudging respect. They weren't just entitled, they were strategic. They knew that in a city like Spokane, reputation was everything. One well-placed article could erase decades of work. They had declared open war. I folded the paper neatly and set it aside, my mind already moving into the same methodical planning mode that once built my business from nothing. This wasn't about airport pickups anymore. It wasn't about Christmas dinner or mortgage payments. This was about winning. I opened my laptop and began searching names. Cody Jenkins, Catherine Jenkins, Isabella Flores, their social media profiles, connections, routines, and the careless details they had shared online. If they wanted a game of strategy, I would show them what real planning looked like. I checked the wall calendar. December 18th. 7 days until Christmas. 7 days to prepare something they wouldn't forget. For the next 3 days, I lived in a different reality. Not the one where I was Dennis Flores, the worn-down relative they took advantage of. This was the world where I was Dennis Flores. Businessman, strategist, someone who had built everything from nothing and wasn't about to let entitled people dismantle it. My laptop became command central. Browser tabs filled with social media profiles like cards in a game. Cody Jenkins, retired First National Bank manager, country club member, treasurer of the Inland Northwest Business Leaders Association. A man of trust and influence with much to lose. Catherine's Instagram projected luxury, charity luncheons, wine tastings, vacation photos tagged blessed life. Each post polished to convey refinement and success, financed partly by me. Isabella's Facebook revealed the real picture, photos of the kitchen I'd paid for, check-ins at restaurants during months when I covered their bills. And a recent post, so excited for Christmas dinner with family. Can't wait to show off our hosting skills, our home, our success, funded by others. But it was Michael's LinkedIn that gave me the missing piece. His recent connections included Patricia Morrison, lifestyle editor at the Spokesman Review, the same Patricia who wrote the hit piece about me. I leaned back, reviewing the evidence spread across my screen. They had made 3 major mistakes, underestimating me, taking their attack public, which meant I could respond publicly. Documenting their lifestyle online, creating a record of hypocrisy. I clicked Patricia's profile. 43 years old, WSU. Journalism graduate, 15 years in local news. No prior ties to finance, so Cody had likely reached her through a business contact. A quick search in local directories confirmed it. 3 shared connections between Cody and Patricia's editor. That article hadn't been coincidence. It was planted. I opened a new document, not a rebuttal, but a timeline. 5 years of financial support recorded with bank statements, receipts, and canceled checks. The down payment for their home, $47,000 from my equity loan. The kitchen remodel Isabella insisted on, $18,000 from my credit card. 60 mortgage payments of $2,800 each, $168,000. Total, $250,000, more than I'd spent on myself in 10 years. A text buzzed from an unfamiliar number, likely Isabella with another angle. I ignored it. By evening, I had everything organized in a thick manila folder. Statements, receipts, photos from their social media showing off purchases I had funded, and a copy of the article marked with my handwritten notes. Lie beside Cody's weather claims. False next to the warnings about my behavior, with context. Written in where they had omitted my years of support. I circled December 24th on my calendar. Not for Christmas, but for justice. Isabella's Facebook showed they were hosting Christmas dinner for 12. Family, friends, neighbors, the same people who read the review and formed opinions quickly. Those were the ones who needed the truth. I pulled out my good camera, the one I once used to document job sites. Tomorrow, it would serve another purpose. Christmas Eve morning was gray and cold, a typical Spokane winter day. I wasn't welcome at family gatherings, but I had other plans. I spread the evidence like a lawyer preparing for trial. Bank statements, receipts, social media posts of jewelry, vacations, and decorations I had paid for. Each set copied 12 times. On top, the newspaper article with my margin notes. I dressed in my best navy suit, the same one I wore to Maria's funeral, pressed, ready for a different farewell. Today, I was leaving behind the role of family doormat. Tonight, I would stand as someone worthy of respect. At 6:30 p.m., I packed the evidence into my briefcase and drove to Kendall Yards. Their house glowed warmly, the driveway crowded with cars. Through the windows, I saw Isabella playing hostess in the home my money had secured. I parked across the street and checked my watch. 6:45. The perfect moment, late enough that everyone would be seated, early enough that dinner was still underway. No quick exits possible. The front door was unlocked, of course. Isabella loved to display how safe their neighborhood was, insisting they didn't need extra security. I stepped inside quietly, the warm air carrying laughter and conversation from the dining room. Then I heard Catherine say, "But darling, that's not how we do things in our family." Laughter followed. Our family, after everything they'd done to exclude me. I walked into the dining room with my briefcase. 12 faces turned toward me, expressions ranging from shock to discomfort. Isabella froze with her wine glass midair. Michael went pale. Cody and Catherine looked like they'd seen a ghost. "Good evening, everyone," I said calmly, setting my briefcase on the marble sideboard. "I hope you don't mind me joining your Christmas celebration." Isabella recovered first. "Dennis, this is completely inappropriate. You need to leave." "Actually," I replied, opening the briefcase and pulling out a stack of papers, "I think your guests deserve to know who really paid for this dinner, this house, and this lifestyle you've been displaying." A woman I didn't recognize, likely one of Catherine's charity friends, leaned forward. "What is he talking about, Isabella?" "He's having some kind of episode," Isabella said quickly. "Michael, call someone." But I was already moving around the table, placing packets in front of each guest. "Here are the bank records," I said evenly. 5 years of financial support, $168,000 in mortgage payments, plus the down payment, renovations, furniture, appliances, everything. You see here, the room went silent except for the sound of pages turning. I watched their expressions shift as they read the numbers, dates, and undeniable proof. "This is," one man began, before stopping at a statement. "Outrageous," finished the woman across from him. "Isabella, why didn't you tell us any of this?" Isabella's composure cracked. "It's more complicated than it looks. Dennis volunteered to help. We never asked." "Actually," I interrupted, pulling out the newspaper article, "let's talk about what you did ask for, and what you told the media about me." The air in the room grew colder. I placed copies of the article on the table, guests recognizing my photo from the unflattering piece that ran 3 days earlier. "Now," I said, "let's talk about who has really been manipulating this family." Cody's face turned pale. Catherine sat rigid, her wine glass untouched. "Mr. Jenkins here used his banking contacts to plant this story," I continued, tapping the paper. "Notice how I'm portrayed as unstable, abandoning vulnerable people in freezing weather." A gray-haired man in a fine sweater looked up. "Cody, what is this?" The weather that day was mild. "Exactly," I said before Cody could respond. It was 52 degrees and sunny, and those weren't stranded tourists. They were Isabella's parents. Arriving for the Christmas dinner, I was barred from attending because I wasn't suitable company. Catherine finally spoke. "That's not... We never said..." "You never said what, Catherine?" I held up screenshots of Isabella's posts. "That I wasn't good enough for your parents. That my food and background would embarrass you in front of your educated friends." One of Catherine's friends shifted uncomfortably. "Catherine, surely you didn't..." "He's twisting everything," Cody insisted weakly. "This man has mental health issues, stress, finances, financial problems." I nearly laughed. "Mr. Jenkins, I've been supporting your daughter and son-in-law with nearly $3,000 a month for 5 years. The only financial problems here are the ones you're about to face." I turned to the table. "They've taken $200,000 from me while insulting me behind my back, excluding me from gatherings, and when I finally stood up for myself, they tried to destroy my reputation in the press." Michael finally spoke, his voice low. "Dad, I didn't know about the newspaper." "Your wife knew," I replied quietly, "and her parents orchestrated it. They made me the villain for refusing to be their ATM and chauffeur." The social dynamic shifted. Guests' faces revealed a growing realization. Everything they believed about tonight's hosts was built on lies. "This is disgraceful," said an older woman in pearls, staring at the bank statements. "Cody, how could you let your daughter exploit this man, then smear him publicly when he stopped enabling it?" Cody's composure was crumbling. "You don't understand the full situation." "I understand perfectly," she cut him off. "This man supported your family. You treated him like hired help, and when he finally said no, you attacked him." Catherine's voice broke. "He abandoned us at the airport. After you told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas dinner because I wasn't acceptable for your parents," I said firmly. "After 5 years of paying your bills while you judged me for my background." The silence was heavy. Guests stared at Cody and Catherine with disgust or embarrassment for being associated with them. Isabella tried one last time. "Everyone, please, this is a private matter that's gotten out of hand." "No," I said sharply. "It stopped being private when you made it public, when you used the press to damage my reputation. I wanted everyone here to know the truth before they read about me again, because they will read about me again, but next time, it'll be the real story." I closed my briefcase and adjusted my tie. "Enjoy the rest of your dinner. It's the last one I'll be paying for." As I walked to the door, voices erupted behind me. Accusations, demands, the sound of a carefully built facade collapsing. Months later, in March, a certified letter arrived at my door. I signed for it, noticing how the spring air felt full of renewal instead of the winter desperation of December. The envelope read, "Notice of default, final demand for payment." Inside, Michael and Isabella's 3 missed mortgage payments had finally caught up with them. Reality delivering its own reckoning, $8,400 in arrears. 14 days to bring the account current or face foreclosure on the house I had once helped them buy. I set the letter aside and went back to my coffee, reading it like news about distant weather. Interesting, but no longer my concern. For weeks, my phone had been buzzing with calls. Isabella's number was blocked after her first frantic voicemail. Cody and Catherine's social reputation in Spokane had dissolved after the Christmas dinner incident. Even Michael had been calling, though I ignored him, partly out of anger, partly out of curiosity about how long it would take him to face reality. The answer was 97 days. He showed up on my doorstep one Thursday evening, no longer the confident man who had excluded me from Christmas dinner, but someone who looked worn down. Dark circles under his eyes, suit wrinkled, desperation hanging over him. "Dad," he said quietly, "we need to talk." I let him in. His eyes swept over my home as if seeing it for the first time. The new furniture bought with my first mortgage-free paycheck, the fresh paint after 8 years, the repairs I had finally been able to afford once I stopped subsidizing his household. "Nice place," he murmured. "That's what happens when you spend on yourself instead of people who don't appreciate it," I replied, settling into my recliner. "Coffee?" He shook his head, perching on the edge of the couch. "Dad, I need you to know how sorry I am. About Christmas dinner, the newspaper article, about how Isabella and how we treated you." "Go on." "I didn't know Cody. Planted that story. When I found out," he rubbed his temples, "the things they said about you, about our family, even about Mom's memory." My jaw tightened at the mention of Maria, but I kept my voice steady. "And what did they say?" "About your mother?" "That she knew her place better than you knew yours. That she understood boundaries." He couldn't meet my eyes. "You should have defended me," I said simply. "Yes," he admitted. "I should have, years ago." We sat in silence, the weight of 5 wasted years heavy between us. Outside, I heard the neighbor mowing his lawn, the sound of a normal evening in a normal neighborhood where fathers weren't pushed out of Christmas dinners. "The house is in foreclosure," Michael said finally. "I know. We can't make the payments without—" He stopped. "Without my help," I finished. "Without the money I sent while you let your wife's family treat me like nothing." I leaned forward. Do you know how much I sent you over 5 years? He nodded miserably. Isabella added it up after Christmas, over $200,000. $237,468, I corrected. I know the exact number because I finally did what I should. Have done years ago, added it up. His face crumpled. Dad, I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix this. You can't. The money is gone. But more importantly, those years are gone. Years I could have spent building a relationship with you instead of funding someone else's fantasy. I know that now. He looked up, hope flickering. Maybe we could start over. Maybe we can. Are you asking me to resume the mortgage payments? The hope faded. We're going to lose everything, Dad. The house, Isabella's respect, her parents' approval. I don't know what I'll do. You'll figure it out, I said, not unkindly. The same way I figured out how to live without a son who respected me. The same way I learned to spend Christmas alone while you celebrated with people who thought I was beneath them. Tears welled in his eyes. I lost you, didn't I? I chose them over you, and now I've lost you forever. I studied him, the son I'd raised, loved, and sacrificed for, who had allowed others to decide his father wasn't good enough. Michael, I said finally, you didn't lose me. You gave me away. There's a difference. He wiped his face. Is there any chance you could forgive me? I forgave you months ago, I said, and meant it. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It doesn't mean I'll fund a lifestyle that treated my presence as an embarrassment. Forgiveness means something else. I stood and walked to the mantel, where Maria's photo sat beside a new one. Me with Rosa and her family at Easter dinner. The first holiday I'd spent with people who actually wanted me there. It means if you want a relationship with me, you'll build it from the ground up. It means showing respect instead of expecting me to earn it. It means choosing what's right, not what's easy. And it means that the next time anyone tries to exclude me, your wife, her parents, anyone, you'll remember who actually acts like family. Michael nodded slowly, as if understanding for the first time. The house? He asked. Not my problem anymore, I said, sitting down again, lighter than I'd felt in years. You're a grown man. Figure it out. Get a job that covers your bills. Sell the house and buy something you can afford. Stop living beyond your means and expecting others to cover the cost. He straightened his shoulders. You're right about all of it. I know. At the door, he turned back. Dad, for what it's worth, seeing you stand up for yourself at Christmas dinner, I was proud of you. Embarrassed, angry, but proud. Good, I said. Maybe there's hope for you yet. After he left, I poured myself a glass of good whiskey and stepped onto the porch. Spring was coming to Spokane, the air warm with possibility. In 4 months I would be 63. Maria had been gone 8 years. I had wasted 5 of those years being a doormat for people who didn't value me. I wasn't going to waste any more. My phone buzzed. A text from Rosa. Dinner Sunday. The kids want to show you their school projects. I smiled and typed back. Wouldn't miss it. Real family, I realized, is made up of people who want you there. Everything else is just costly theater, and I was done buying tickets to shows where I wasn't welcome. The whiskey tasted like freedom, and the future looked as bright as I was willing to make it. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left.